is Oromo Voice Radio English program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16-meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Oromia is a country in East Africa well known as the Horn of Africa. It's 600,000 square kilometers, making it larger than France, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Oromia is populated by over 40 million people. It's the origin of human race and the Gada system. Oromia is the birthplace of coffee and home to world-class athletes. Also is a nation with multi-faith society, Christianity, Islam, and Wakafana. Oromia is the third largest single nation in Africa and the single largest nation in East Africa. It has been occupied by Ethiopia for over 130 years and is struggling for self-determination. Oromia has unaccounted number of Oromo refugees living in other countries.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Ali Galato. I have two special guests. Dr. Awal Alo is a fellow in human rights at London School of Economics in the political science. And Sagai Ararsa from Melbourne Law School in Melbourne, Australia. Thank you guys. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
This 1 year a lot happened, but the Lebir Oromo protest, Amnesty report, now Abbasai has openly saying that the master plan will be put into practice by all means. Those who oppose the master plan will be put down or face the consequence. What is going on this 1 year? Why are all these things actually happening now? Let's start from Sagai.
Thank you. It's very hard to say why this is happening. Yes, there was a lot of events since late 2013 when the protest against the event organized by the Delebir, and then there was the Amnesty International report at the end of 2014, which focused on the atrocities perpetrated on Oromo citizens in Ethiopia. And then there was the master plan implementation issue that led to a lot of protests last year. And then now, yes, the Abai Sahaye, the advisor to the Prime Minister, has just been heard speaking to EPRDF officials where he put what sounded like a threat to the regional and local government officials of Oromia, who, in the event they protest or they become an obstacle to the implementation of the master plan, he said would be crushed. Why this is happening, it's very difficult to say for us. But I think whatever the reason is, it is going to be a very sensitive, very delicate issue in this year because it is an election year. In a matter of 2 months now, there will be an election, and pre-existing tensions and contradictions are really almost on the brink of explosion. So it is a very interesting development to watch in the light of a constellation of developments that occurred over the last year and a half.
Dr. Awal?
I think the guy has articulated the point very well, and in my view, I think there are broader questions as to why this is happening at the moment. But I think one important point is that the Oromos, broadly speaking, are beginning to speak out. The position and the role that is assigned to the Oromos by the hegemonic group in Ethiopia is one of mimicry. Oromos are supposed to mimic the articulate voices of the hegemonic group in that country. Now, people are beginning to break from that logic of mimicking, and people are resisting the authoritarian move of the government. And it's precisely that will to resist and say no, this determination not to accept a diminished self, I think that is creating the kind of anger, disappointment that we saw from people like Abai Sahaye and several other people within the government. But I think in order for us to sort of understand the broader sort of constitutional and historical context, we need to step back and see, the conditions of possibility, the very raw material that makes these kinds of realities that we see on the ground possible. So, we can begin this from the Constitution and evaluate the legality and legitimacy of the master plan itself, and this specifically by Zahaye. But we can also go beyond the Constitution and look at history. We can get beyond the question of law and legality and see how history helps us understand how we get to where we are today. So the historical context is central to how we understand the formal and informal distribution of power between the various groups, and also crucial for understanding what is happening at present.
Dr. Awal, you write about Oromo First article. What is the relationship between Oromo and Ethiopia? Can you explain the word Addis Ababa and the Finfinne as well?
In my understanding, the Oromo is a victim of what is called a constitutive and foundational wrong. This foundational constitutive wrong deprived the Oromo of the very conditions of intelligibility, of visibility and voice that is crucial for individuals and groups to appear in politics and also in the democratic public sphere broadly. So we are, as people, put in these conditions of dependence and unintelligibility through a history of marginalization and subjugation of our identity, our language, our culture, etc. So the Oromo problem is a depth problem. It's not a surface problem. The problem that we see happening now, the master plan or the threats by government against people who resist these oppressive tactics, is simply a surface manifestation of that depth problem. And it's a problem that is inaccessible, it's invisible, it's difficult even for those of us who think we can read and understand things to articulate in an adequate way. So as a result of that, there's a problem. We have become almost the plebeians of antiquity, if you like, those who can feel the pain, but are actually not able to articulate their pain, to give an account of their pain. Those who can speak, but whose voices are not recognized and heard as a discourse, as simply heard as a noise, if you like. So, when Abai Zahaye says that it is the local officials and the Oromia regional officials that are responsible for what is happening, it's precisely because for Abai Zahaye or for its people in his universe, the kinds of claims and the grievances that the Oromo people have aired on the question of the master plan is heard not as a discourse, not as a claim, not as an entitlement. Right? Had the government recognized the Oromos as equal, right, as people capable of logos, capable of articulating their views, they would have heard them properly and articulated and entertained their views. And what actually happened is that, people who were not able to articulate their interests, but listening to the views and ideas of what the government calls subversive groups or violent groups, and therefore should be crushed and defeated by all means possible.
So Zahaye, you wrote an article on June 4, 2014, why resist the master plan and the constitutional legal exploration, and you list 4 legal arguments against the master plan, like argument from federalism, master plan violate the procedure for constitutional amendment, the master plan violate the human rights, the master plan ignore the state duty to ensure good governance. Can you elaborate on that for our audience?
Yeah, I think I would rather pick up from where I was stopped, and I think the master plan and the protest over that, to that, and the contestation over that goes beyond technical determination of what is legal and what is not. The problem is rooted in the state-society relationship, the nature and form of the state in Ethiopia, and the history of state formation, nation building, and the model of nation building that was operational in the late 19th century up until today, which is, of course, the time of forming the modern Ethiopian state. Now, in that relationship, the Oromo has been the victim of a hegemonic state, has been also a victim of sedimented social prejudice, and so the language, the identity, the culture was dehumanized, denigrated. The Oromo person is completely otherized. It was the other of the Ethiopian state. Now, it's an accumulation of all these issues that are getting expression in the process of the protest against the master plan last year. You could see that from the slogans the university students aired last year. One of the things they were saying was that the Oromo language be the national working language in Ethiopia, that the special interest of Oromia over the city of Addis Ababa be implemented, that the federal government actually be removed from the city, which is an Oromo city, and a lot of other issues and a number of political prisoners that populate Ethiopia's prisons and detention centers be released. Now, when you consider all these demands, they are not demands that are immediately provoked or activated by the master plan, but they are demands that got expression right at the moment of the attempt to implement the master plan. But what is the master plan? The master plan was developed by a project office in Addis Ababa, probably organized by the federal government. And the title was basically called the Integrated Regional Development Plan, for short, the master plan. It's a kind of grand master plan that tries to incorporate 36 Oromia towns and 17 districts that are organized in what is called the spatial zone of Oromia. So the master plan seeks to integrate the original city of Addis Ababa, which is about 10 sub-cities, with these 36 towns in the spatial zone. Now, what that does is, because Addis Ababa in the past was an Oromo city physically, but by legal fiction of excision, because it's administered by its own city municipal administration, which is accountable to the federal government, it was basically outside of the jurisdiction of the administrative jurisdiction of Oromia. Now, what they are trying to do is, through the master plan, to extend that scope of the excision, the administrative excision from the administrative jurisdiction, political jurisdiction of Oromia, to all these cities, these towns, and 17 districts. That was what people were protesting against. And at the time, yes, we did say that this is unconstitutional. And the reason is because the federal government, as they tried to do, does not have an authority to do so, first and foremost. It also is a way of violating the principle of federalism, the principle of self-rule in a federation, because federalism is constituted of comprises of two constitutive principles, namely self-rule and shared rule. And by trying to develop a master plan for cities that belong to Oromia, what they are trying to do is to override the self-rule dimension of or the autonomy of the state, the regional state of Oromia. So that was one of the reasons we said it wasn't constitutional. And we also said yes, because this is an amendment also, in a way, a practical amendment of the the boundary of Oromia. This cannot be done unilaterally by the federal government. In fact, it cannot be done by the federal government at all. It can only be done through formal constitutional amendment procedure or through referendum in accordance with Articles 46 and 47 of the Constitution.
Part 2 of this interview will continue next week.